My goal for the Skyblock world was always to see how far I could push the game. So far we only managed to get some of the necessities out of the way, like building an iron and dirt farm, or in the last episode getting access to wandering traders. But today we are shooting for the stars by building an enormous industrial district consisting of 10 extremely useful and efficient farms. This will cover all the materials that are either very annoying to get, but also lava, which is currently the most limited resource in the entire world. Actually coming up with what farms to build was more difficult than I expected, but here's my thinking. This is the ice farm that I use for all the water streams I used in this world. It's awful, so we definitely need to construct a bigger one in this industrial district. Lava is currently the most sparse essential resource we have, so a lava farm is definitely more than needed. However, we need dripstone to build one, so let's just build a dripstone farm as well. This farm would make use of a flying machine to harvest all the dripstone, but this gave me an idea. Sugarcane and bamboo can also be easily farmed with flying machines, so why not extend the structure for the dripstone farm a bit and add sugarcane and bamboo as well. In the design I came up with, I used hopper minecarts to collect all the materials. That means that we need a ton of rails, which is why I also decided to include a rail duplicator in this industrial district. Next up on our list is a moss and bone meal farm. This is mostly because I constantly run out of bone meal for our tree farm. But even outside of bone meal, moss is one of the nicest building blocks in the game. Speaking of building blocks, by using a similar design to our cobblestone farm, we can get lots of basalt too. That by itself is a great building block, but this Skyblock map adds a custom recipe using basalt that allows you to craft deep slate, which is my favorite block in the whole game. We are also going to build one of the most powerful farms in all of Minecraft, a shulker farm. I've actually manually gathered all the shulker boxes for this project myself, which took over 2 hours. So having a farm for shulker shells will be extremely useful in the future. Finally, we are going to build a wheat farm, mostly because it's needed for making tons of target blocks. I spent the next few days designing an entire industrial district in a creative world, mostly so that I could take a schematic and look at the material list. What the hell is this? Why is this so expensive? In fact, this entire district consisted of 56 shulker boxes of the most god-awful materials imaginable, and it took me 2 days to gather all of them, excluding the entire week I spent AFKing at the Wandering Trader farm. But since we needed multiple stacks of packed ice and dripstone, I had an idea. Instead of using the farms we're gonna build later to gather those materials, why not just get all of them from a single Wandering Trader? So I set up a small rail line and decreased my render distance to 2 chunks, opened the trading window as I sent both of the minecarts off, and then traded with the Wandering Trader as it went outside of the render distance, which caused it to unload. You'll now notice that the trader still has dripstone and packed ice in stock, even though we just traded for it. And no, Wandering Traders can't normally restock their items. This is known as void trading, where you trade with an unloaded villager or wandering trader to prevent it from running out of stock. The only limit is the 40 minutes it takes for a trader to despawn, but that's plenty of time to get all the materials we need. And this was the only exciting part of the resource gathering, so let's skip forward all the way to the construction of the industrial district. I started by building the central storage and control room, from which you can access all the farmed items and from which you can turn some of the farms on and off. This means that I had to build water streams leading from the farm to the storage and redstone lines leading from the control panel back to the farms. And then finally, it was time to construct our first farm in this area, the ice farm. It works by moving the player around with water streams, while flushing a constant supply of XP to them to repair their pickaxe. Since ice needs direct sky access to farm, this farm is basically just a massive platform, covering up most of our horizontal space. Next up, I built the lava farm, which was very easy and satisfying to build, since we basically just got more and more of the most limited resource in our world. The moss farm was designed by Il Mango and took a while to construct. This farm will gather moss, moss carpets, both types of azaleas, and most importantly bone meal, making this the most versatile farm in the entire district. After that came the rail duplicator, which technically isn't a farm, but it will give us an immense supply of all 4 types of rails, while also being very compact. Then it was finally time for the triple farm, consisting of pointed dripstone, sugarcane, and bamboo. As mentioned earlier, this farm works by breaking those blocks with a flying machine that is sent out every few minutes. The basalt farm is nothing groundbreaking, just a variation of the cobblestone farm where the basalt is being pushed upwards from the bottom, since generating basalt is a bit more difficult than generating cobblestone. Other than that, it works exactly the same, at exactly the same speed. So far, we already managed to build 8 out of 10 farms, but the last 2 would turn out to be the most difficult ones to build out of all of them, starting with the shulker farm. This design was made by MD and works in a single dimension, no nether required. Building the farm itself was simple enough, but bringing a shulker all the way from the end into this farm was another story. I ended up using a rail line going all the way from spawn to the industrial district, as well as one going from an end city to the main end portal. This was easier said than done, but after some time the shulker was in place and we finally got access to infinite shulker boxes. The bad news is that I forgot about the wheat farm, and it uses 32 villagers, so I basically had to build a villager breeder right above the wheat farm and then occasionally drop the villagers in there. But after some time it was done. Not just the wheat farm, but the entire industrial district. This was by far our biggest project yet, but after running it for one night, it became clear that this was more than worth it. Most of the chests were fully filled up, including the bamboo, which will be very useful once we update to 1.20. But before we do that, there's just one more thing we have to get out of the way. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.